Welcome back, guys. As you know that we have started problem number 1 and we were doing journal entries, and there you can see that step by step we have completed several journal entries. We were on January 18 when last entry has been completed. Let's see what is next after January 18. So after January 18 we have January 20. Let's put the date first. January 20 is the date. All right, and now let's see what narration is saying. January 20 is saying cash check received from Shahid, January 20, and paid into the bank. Check was received from Shahid and Sons and paid the check into the bank. Okay, now the problem is amount is not mentioned, and you will have to see if Shahid is present in any of previous entries. Here you can see that received a check from Shahid in previous entry, and now what is happening? The same check paid the and same check received from Shahid is deposited into the bank. Check received from Shahid paid into the bank, and this was received by Shahid 2 entries before. Now you can understand check was already been received and now we are depositing it. Here you can see that check is received from Shahid and Sons, and same check is now deposited into the bank. When you will deposit this check into the bank, eventually amount present in bank account will be increased. Increase in bank account mean increase in asset. Increase in asset should be debited, so you are going to debit bank account. Why? Because this was the check you have received and the same check is deposited into the bank. It means your amount in bank account will eventually be increased when this check will be approved. Increase in bank account mean increase in asset which should be debited, so you will debit bank account. Alright, on the other hand, what will happen? The check you have already received from Shahid over here, and the same check is going out. As check was not deposited into the bank earlier, you are now depositing it. So it was considered as cash. So what will happen? The same cash is going out. It means check was in shape of asset with you. There is decrease in asset in your possession. Decrease in asset should be credited, so you will mention this cash on credit side. Though it was not exactly the cash, we have check and we considered that check as cash for the time being temporarily. So this check will be credited, but actually you will credit the cash. Check written over here is just a reference. Here this check is reference. Actually we do not write checks in accounting. Alright, check which was received from Shahid now deposited into the bank. Amount is not mentioned in transaction. As you know that check's amount was already mentioned in previous entry of January 16. Same amount would be deposited into the bank. So you are supposed to write 18,000 on debit side and same amount would be written on the credit side as well. This way you have completed January 20th entry. Now let's see what is next, that is January 22. Write down the date first, January 22. Let's see what is in January 22. Goods sold for cash and paid into the bank. There are two steps. You have sold goods for cash, this is your first step, and paid the same into the bank. Ultimately, what had happened? You have sold your goods for cash and deposited the cash into the bank. So finally, what is happening? Cash is going into the bank means amount present in your bank account is increased. Increase in bank account means increase in asset which should be debited. So you are going to debit your bank. So how this amount was received? You have sold your goods, mean your goods are going out. Goods are your near asset. Assets are decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you were supposed to write goods over here. As usual, we do not write goods. In place of good or instead of goods, we write working. what working we are doing, we are selling over here, so you will mention sale. Goods were written only to refer the way we will do this journal entry. It was just a reference. Now it is unneeded to be put over here. You can erase it, as instead of goods we already have written sale, so purpose of writing goods was accomplished, so we deleted it. Now please try to understand, you had sold goods, received cash and immediately deposited into the bank. It means amount of cash has directly gone into the bank. Your amount present in bank account has been increased. Increase in bank account should be debited, so we debited bank. Let's see how much worth of goods we have sold in 22. That is 38,000. It is mentioned over here. So write down 38,000 on debit side, and you are supposed to write same amount on credit side as well. January 22nd entry completed. Now let's see what is next entry, and that is 24th. Paid a check to Salman for 35 and full settlement of his account. So it means Salman is present somewhere upper side as well. You can see I have just seen Salman is here. So we will see how much amount was due. Since we are doing 24th entry, which is saying paid to Salman, paid a check to Salman. So we will see how much amount was payable to Salman, and we are paying right now 35,600. But the matter to note is we are paying to Salman by check. Keep remember. So we are paying amount by check. When you will give this check to the person to whom amount was payable, he will go to your bank account, will present that check and will withdraw amount from your bank account. It means amount present in your bank account would be decreased. Decrease in bank account means decrease in asset, which should be credited. So you will mention name of your bank account on credit side. To whom you are paying this check? Salman. As you have seen in your entry, paid a check to Salman. So check is paid to Salman. Salman was the person to whom amount was payable. He was your account payable. He was your liability. After payment, he is no more your account payable, no more your liability. Liability has been decreased. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So you will mention name of Salman on debit side. Though he was your account payable. Account payables are liabilities, and liabilities are supposed to be mentioned on credit side. Why we are writing Salman on debit side? Because we had paid. After payment, he is no more account payable. Liability decreased. Decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So you have written Salman on debit side. There is a matter of understanding over here. You have paid Salman, and the worth of check or amount written on check was 35,600. So how much amount would be decreased in your bank account? That is 35,600. So bank will be decreased by amount 35,600. Here we'll have to see how much total amount was payable. That's an important point. How much amount was payable to Salman? For this you will see where Salman is present. Here you can see that we had purchased goods from Salman for rupees 36,000. So full settlement was 36,000, total amount was 36,000, but still you have to see if Salman is present anywhere after that entry and before our current entry. Salman is not present anywhere, so there is only one entry present on January 12 where we were liable to pay Salman 36,000. All right, so full amount was 36,000. You had written it in front of Salman. Let me see the date. Date is very important. After 22 it was 24, so you were supposed to write date first, January 24. So now we have understood that total amount which was payable to Salman was 36,000, while actually we are paying 35,600. When you will apply a simple accounting principle upon this entry, you will see that both entries are not equal. Debit side is 36,000, 35,600 is on credit side. Now let me know, if you are paying, who will allow you to pay less? Obviously Salman. Salman was account payable. He permitted you to pay less. That means he is giving you concession. When he is giving you concession, you are receiving that concession. So if you are receiving, it means you have received something. What is that something? when you are permitting when you are permitted to pay less, that less means you are receiving discount. So it is your discount received, and you are going to write it on credit side. Why you are receiving it? Receiving means income. Here there is another mystery. We have indirectly understood that if total amount payable was 36,000 and we are paying 35,600, it means some amount is paid less. Less amount has been paid by us to Salman. How much that amount is less? For that purpose, we can apply simple accounting principle over here. Debit and credit side is always equal. So how much amount is deficient? For that purpose, you will subtract amount present in credit side from amount present in debit side. So debit side amount is 36,000. You will subtract amount present on credit side. Here you have got the answer for 400, which would be considered as your discount received. And we have already understood why it is discount received. As Salman had permitted us to pay less, it is comfortable situation for us. It is just like income for us. So income should be mentioned on credit side. That is why discount is written on credit side. Amount we have calculated by subtracting total of both side. Difference was 400. This would be considered your discount. January 24th entry has been completed. What is next? After 24 we have 26th. Put date first. January 26 is your date. Let's see what January 26 is saying. Receive cash from Shahid, rupees 9,800 in full settlement. Again, one of the same thing is going out. 1 second. You have, okay, ठीक है. That's all right. I was thinking that whether you have paid Salman by check. I was worried as it may be we have written cash, but thankfully we have already mentioned bank because of the check. While just opposite to the check, we are receiving cash from our customer, received cash from Shahid. In full settlement is also mentioned. So first of all, we will see we are receiving cash from Shahid. We will generalize it first. When you are receiving cash, it means you are cash in hand is increasing. Increase in cash in hand means your asset is increasing. Increase in asset should be mentioned on debit side, so you will mention cash on debit side. Hopefully you have understood. I was putting line before the entry. You are receiving cash from Shahid. It means your cash in hand is increasing. Increase in cash in hand means increase in asset, which should be debited. So you have debited name of cash on debit side. So you have debited cash. From whom you are receiving this cash? That is Shahid, as it is mentioned in our entry. You are receiving cash from Shahid. Shahid was the person from whom amount was receivable. He was account receivable. He was our asset. After receiving cash from him, he is no more our asset, no more account receivable. Asset are decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention name of Shahid on credit side. Okay, now see how much amount we have received from Shahid. That is 9,800 amount which we have received from Shahid. So you are going to put 9,800 in cash column. How much total amount was? As it is mentioned that 9,800 is received in full settlement. Okay, so we'll have to see how much amount was receivable from Shahid. For this, we'll go to our journal and we'll seek and look Shahid. Here Shahid is present and total amount receivable from him was 18,000. Now you have understood that total amount was receivable from Shahid was 18,000, but you will have to look again for remaining entries as well. So entries, we have checked it out. Shahid is not mentioned in any of other entries, so goods are not returned, partial payment is not paid. Total amount was 18,000, so you are supposed to write this 18,000 in front of Shahid. This was full settlement. While we are paying him, Shahid, 18,000. Okay. Guys will have to see that something else is also present in our journal, so we'll have to look because only 9,800 is being paid. So we'll have to see where Shahid elsewhere is present. Shahid is over here 18,000. Okay, we have got Shahid. Actually, we have sold goods to Shahid for rupees 2,800. This was the total amount which was receivable from Shahid. Now see if Shahid is present elsewhere. This we have seen already. So 18,000 cash is already been received in shape of check. So payment has received 18,000. Total amount receivable was 28,000. This was your first entry and you have received 18,000 from him. Remaining amount will be full settlement. Let's see how much. Please look it again. Shahid, amount receivable from Shahid was 28,000. Out of this 28,000, we have received, look, here is Shahid. We have received from Shahid 18,000. So remaining amount was still receivable from Shahid, that was 10,000. And in full settlement of 10,000, you are receiving only 9,800. Who will permit to pay less or receive less? It would be we are the person who is receiving the amount, and we will decide whether our account receivable will pay less or more. Since total amount receivable was 10,000 from Shahid, so he was paying that amount to us. It is our decision to let him pay less. It means we are permitting, that means we are giving him some concession. So it is unfavorable for you. If you are permitting your account receivable to pay less, that means you will receive less. It is unfavorable for us. It's just like an expense for you. And when you are permitting, it means you are going to allow your account receivable to pay less. That means you are giving him discount. So it means this discount allowed is an expense for you. So you will put it on debit side. Secondly, amount of discount is not given. Again, we will apply the simple principle. We will equalize debit and credit side. On debit side, amount is present 10,000. We will subtract amount present on debit side. The difference would be equalizer, with which what will happen, amount present on debit and credit side will be equalized. You can see 200 plus 9,800, 10,000, and 10,000 is present on credit side as well. This way you have equalized both amounts. January 26th entry you are doing and you have completed it. Please, you can stop over here and see what and how we have completed this entry. Cash was received, cash was asset, increase in asset, debited. Cash was received from Shahid. He was your account receivable. Account receivables are asset. And asset should be mentioned on debit side. Why we have written asset on credit side? Because after receiving amount from Shahid, he is no more our account receivable, no more our asset. Asset has been decreased. Decrease in asset is mentioned on credit side. So that is why Shahid is been written on credit side. Total amount receivable was 10,000. How we have calculated? From Shahid, we have sold goods to Shahid for rupees 28,000. Out of 28,000, we have received 18,000. Remaining amount was 10,000. And in full settlement of 10,000, we have received just 9,800. Difference of 200 was considered as discount, which was an expense for us. Expenses should be mentioned on debit side. That is why discount is written on debit side. Hopefully you have understood. Now let's see after 26 what is for us. The date is 28. So you will put January 28 in date column. Let's see what January 28 is saying. Withdraw cash from business for personal use. What is written? Withdraw cash for personal use. We will indirectly understood that the personal use is for proprietor and cash is drawn from the business for personal use. So proprietor is going to draw cash from the business. What will happen? Your cash in hand, that means cash in hand of business. Cash in hand would be decreased. Cash in hand is your asset. Asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you are going to put cash on credit side. Why? Because your owner or the proprietor is taking cash out of the business, with which cash in hand is decreasing, asset decreasing, which should be credited. So you have mentioned cash on credit side. Who is taking this cash? Proprietor. The amount which is withdrawn by the proprietor, technically it is called drawings. So you will put drawings on debit side. Why we had debited it? As you know, in our very first entry we have credited capital, amount which is provided by the proprietor to the business. It is liability of the business, and when amount is drawn from the business, he had taken this amount, it means our liability in sense of capital has been decreased. That is why decrease in liability should be mentioned on debit side. So you have mentioned drawings on debit side, January 28. How much of amount he had drawn? 6,000 was the amount. So you are going to put 6,000 on debit side, and same amount you are going to put on credit side as well. Credit and debit side will always be equal. After 28, let's see what is next. That is January 30. Put date first, January 30, and now let's see what January 30 is saying. Paid electricity bill. So as you are paying it, it means cash in hand in the business is decreasing. It means asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention cash on credit side because you are paying this cash. For what purpose you have paid this cash? That is electricity bill. Bill is your expense. Expenses should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention electricity bill on debit side because all expenses should be mentioned on debit side. If I had said anything else, please ignore it. Expenses should always be on debit side, and electricity bill is an expense. Expenses we are writing on debit side. So you can see that electricity bill is written on debit side. How much amount is paid for electricity bill? That is 2,000. All right, so put 2,000 on debit side, and same amount will be written on credit side as well. This way you have completed your January 30th entry. Let's see if yes, we have another entry, that is January 31. Paid following expenses by check. This is very important to know that you are paying your expense through check. Okay, first is salaries, insurance. There are two expenses. You can write one single entry for both, or you can make two different entries. So initially we have paid salaries for 4,000. It is January 31st entry. You are paying salaries through check. Keep remember that we are paying this expense through check, and it is mentioned over here. When you are paying something through check, you will issue that check to the person to whom amount was payable. He will go to the bank, will present that check to your bank branch, will withdraw amount from your bank, means amount present in your bank account would be decreased. Decrease in bank account should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention bank on credit side. As an asset, it is going to be decreased. For what purpose you have issued this check? First purpose, you have paid salaries. There it is mentioned in the last entry. You are paying this expense for the salaries. Salaries are your expense. Expenses should be mentioned on debit side. So you will mention salaries on debit side. This is your first expense. How much amount is paid for salaries in terms of check? That is 4,000. So put 4,000 in front of salaries. All right. You can do two different entries, salaries to bank, and you can do second entry elsewhere, but a combined entry is also possible. Suppose we are doing separate entries. For next entry, insurance is being paid, and he had mentioned board expenses are paid through check. So insurance you are paying through check. Again, when you will pay payment to insurance company through check, the check would be given to insurance company, and company will present that check to your bank account. There the company will withdraw amount from your bank account. Amount present in bank account will be decreased, mean asset is decreasing. Decrease in asset should be mentioned on credit side. So you will mention name of bank on credit side. And for what purpose you have paid this check? That purpose is insurance. So insurance is an expense. expenses should be mentioned on debit side. So you are putting insurance on debit side. So this is the way you can do two entries, or what you can do, you can make a combined entry. Both expenses should be debited, so you will debit insurance as well. And for both expenses, banks are credit. It means bank will be credited twice. What we will do? Well, let's see the amount of insurance, that is 2000. So you will write 2000 in front of bank. This is the way you can make this entry combined. As bank was credited for two amounts, so what you will do, first amount was 4000 and second amount was 2000. So you will credit your bank account with two amounts. Either you can write two bank, or you can sum the sum of the amounts of two checks, with which you will get 6000. So combined entry is also possible, and separate entries are also possible. Since we have done combined entry, so this entry is now not needed to be written over here. You can erase it. This way your January 31, I have written January 32, which is not possible in practical life, so it is a sort of joke. 31. So we have completed our 31st entry. Let's see if there is anything else in our question. So after 31, no. They are just saying to generalize above transaction and nothing else is present. It means our journal entries have been completed. So as you have seen over here, our journal entries are completed, with which our first part or first section, first part is something else. First section of this question has been completed. Look at this. It's just like a jungle of transactions, jungle of journal entries over here. So many entries are present in this question, and there is a huge sort of enjoyment of doing this question. Longer the question, longer the enjoyment for me, and I'm very hopeful for the students as well. They will be enjoying as well. There is a short break. We will not stop this video. There will be a short break for you. You will come back and we are going to start our ledgers. Second part, what we have promised is we will convert all journal entries into ledger. Let's take a short break. So guys, we have completed all the journal entries which were present in the question. It's time to put these journal entries into our ledger, and ledger format is as usual same. We have two side, debit side and credit side. Here we will write the title and number of ledger. Next line is for date particular amount on debit side, date particulars and amount on credit side. Rule is very simple. The ledger which we are making, we will look that title from these journal entries. Suppose you are making cash ledger, you will seek where is cash amount is present in the journal entries, and then what you will do, as you are making cash ledger, you will see if cash is debit, you will choose debit side. If cash is present on credit side, so you will choose credit side. If you are making purchase ledger, you will see if purchase is present on debit side, you will choose debit side. And if purchase is present on credit side, purchase is not present on credit side. If purchase was present on credit side, so you were supposed to put purchase on credit side. Rule is simple. Debit do debit and credit do credit. If any element is present on debit side of the journal, you will choose the same debit side in the ledger as well. Hopefully you have understood. The very first ledger we are going to make, that title would be given according to sequence. Whatever is coming on first, that means first come first. Whatever is coming on first line, we will make the ledger of that particular element. First, we can see that it's cash. So we are going to make cash ledger. First step is to put title. This is your first ledger and we are making cash ledger. Secondly, keep it in mind, we are focusing upon cash only and nothing else we will see. We will only be having cash. We will be focusing upon cash. What else is written in the entry, we are not concerned with that. So first entry, January 1, cash is written on debit side, and as usual our rule is saying if cash is written on debit side, we will choose debit side of the ledger. Cash is debited 130,000. You will go to the debit side of the cash and will write 130,000 on your debit side. It was 130. Okay. Now second step is to write down the reference. For reference, what will you do? You have posted cash which was on debit side. To see the reference, whatever will be written on the opposite side, that would be your reference. Since you have posted cash, what is written on the opposite side? That is 2 capital. So you will be writing 2 capital in particular column as your reference. Now it's time to see the date. For first entry we have January 1A. You will put January 1A as a reference. Since we have a little less space over here, we have compromised space over here, so we are going to write date in this way, a little shorter. 130,000 was the amount of capital which was invested in shape of cash. You have posted cash. It means cash on debit side 130,000 is posted. Our purpose completed. Mark it as it has been done. Why we are marking it? Now you can see that there is whole jungle of journal entries over here. So what will happen? There are two chances. There are two risks. It may be possible you will write one entry for more than one time. Entry can be doubled. Entry can be written twice. And second fear is it may be possible some of the cash entries or some of the entries to be posted in ledger can be missed or can be skipped. When you will mark it, it means we will be satisfied that it has not been skipped. We have posted this amount into the ledger. And secondly, after marking, this amount would not be posted again and again in ledger. It means fear of doubling and fear of skipping. Both fears are going to be minimized if you will mark it. I will suggest you in your paper you will also be required to mark it, not compulsorily. I'm just suggesting you just to mark when you will complete. It would surely be very helpful matter when there is a longer question like that. So first entry has been completed. Now let's see what second entry is saying. We were searching cash. Cash is not present over here. Leave it. As earlier we have decided while making cash ledger, you will only be focusing upon cash. So cash is not present over here. Cash is not present over here. No cash. And yes, in January 2 you have the cash which is credited by 60,000, credited by 60,000. Okay, so it is credited. Go to the credit side of ledger and put 60,000 on credit column of cash ledger. See its reference. What is reference of 60,000? What is written on opposite side? It is purchase. Write down buy purchase over here. See its date of 60,000 which is January 2. So you are going to write the date over here which is January 2. Alright, date as already date is mentioned, reference is mentioned. It means 60,000 entry cash is completed. Mark it as it has been done. Now next, immediately next entry is having cash which is debited by 44,000. Go to debit side and write down 44,000 in amount column. Time to see its reference. What is written on opposite side? It's 2 sales. So you are supposed to write 2 sales over here. See its date which is January 3rd. Go to the date column and write down January 3rd over here. Posting is completed for 44,000 and it was cash. So in front of cash amount 44,000, mark it as it has been done. Now next entry, cash is not present. Next entry, yes, cash is present on credit side by 16,000. So we will choose credit side and we'll write 16,000 over here. See what is the reference of this 16,000? That is typewriter, you can see it. So we are going to write typewriter over here with an additional word of buy. See this 16,000 date which is January 8B, that means J8B. So here you will put your date J8B. 16,000 posting completed. For cash was credited, we have posted on credit side, it means it has been completed, so we have marked it as it has been done. In January 10 we have cash again credited by 8,000. We will go to the credit side, we'll write 8,000 on credit column of the cash book. See how much, see what is the reference. There was the cash which was credited. Iron safe is written on the opposite side, so you will use the same for the reference. Buy iron safe over here. C for 8,000, what is date? That is January 10. So you are going to put January 10 in date column for 8,000. Okay, date is written, cash is written, it has been posted to the ledger, mark it as it has been done. Next entry, January 12, cash is not present. January 14, yes, cash is present, 40,000 on credit side. So go to the credit side and write down 40,000 over here. Okay, see 40,000 reference. What is written on the opposite side? That is bank. So you are going to write buy bank in particular column of the credit side. See 40,000 date, which is January 14. Put date over here. Very important matter is to put the date accordingly, because it would be very helpful while making other ledgers, and after completing ledger in trial balance it would also be playing very important role. So 40,000 J14 is completed. This was 40,000 J14 posting completed, mark it as it has been done. January 16, cash is present, yes. 16,000 sorry 18,000 cash debit. Go to the debit side and write down 18,000. See what is reference of this 18,000. Cash was debited. What is written on the opposite side? Shahid. So you are going to write Shahid over here as reference in particulars column. 18,000 was the amount, and what is the date? January 16th. Put date over here. January 16 is the date. January 16, 18,000. So here was the cash, January 16, 18,000 amount has been posted, entries completed, mark it as it has been done. After January 16 we have January 18. Cash is not present, leave it, skip it, ignore it. January 20, yes, cash is present, 18,000. So we'll go to the credit side and we'll write 18,000 in credit column of cash. See what is reference of this 18,000, as it has been arrived again 18,000. So what is written on the opposite side? Bank. So you are going to write bank over here with an additional word of buy. See this 18,000 date, which is January 20. Put here your date first, January 20. Here entry has been completed. Now I think we need to put more entries over here. So this was format of old question. It is now not needed over here to put. We are going to have several entries next, so it is better to put a separator first. So here is our separator. Now let's see, 18,000 was the amount, J20 was the entry which we have completed. Let's go what is next. This was your January 20 and cash was credited by 18,000. Amount is already been posted, means entry has been completed. We have written 18,000 on credit side of the cash. Yes. So entry is completed 18,000 January 20. Now January 22 cash is not present. 24 no. January 28 yes, cash is present 9,800 on debit side. So you will put 9,800 on debit side of cash column. See what is reference of this 9,800. This was cash. What is written on the opposite side? Shahid. So you are going to write to Shahid again over here. So there are This is second time when you are putting Shahid. 9800 was the entry. Now see what was the date, January 26. Put date January 26 over here. So 9800 is posted. After posting entry is completed, mark it as it has been done. Now next entry, January 28, cash is present on credit side. So we'll go to the credit side, we'll write 6000 on credit side. Let's see why we are writing 6000. Cash is credited. What is the reason? The reference is what we have written on the opposite side, that is drawings. So we are going to put drawings over here with an additional word of buy. Let's see for 6000 what was the date, that is January 28. Put date over here, January 28. So posting for 6000 is completed. That means this amount of 6000 is posted. Mark it as it has been done. Next entry, January 30. Yes, cash is present 2000 on credit side. We'll go to the credit side and we'll write 2000 in amount column. After writing 2000, let's see what was its reference for 2000. Cash was written. Electricity bill is written on the opposite side. So this will be used for reference with buy. Electricity bill would be the reference. See electricity bill's date, January 30. So put date in date column, January 30. Here you have posted January 30th entry. Let's see what is next. After January 30, it is January 31, cash is not present. What does that mean? All posting related to cash has been completed, and now you can see that from here we have started and we have gone downward. You can see the marked entries. All entries related to cash has been posted into the ledger. After posting all the amounts related to cash in ledger, it means now it's time to calculate the balance. For balance, there are few steps, and I am requesting you to follow these steps very carefully, because so many ledgers would be made and these steps would always be repeating and repeating and repeating for each ledger. All right, so first step is to calculate sum of both sides. So we will calculate sum of debit side on first hand. So whatever amounts are present on debit side, take sum. I'm taking help from Excel. What you will do, you will say, you will write upon your calculator 130 plus 44 plus 18 plus 98, all amounts. And here I have calculated sum of debit side, which is 2 lakh something. And same you will do for your credit side as well. And you will calculate the sum of all the amounts present on credit side. Here all amounts present on credit side, and Excel will help us to calculate the sum. So sum of credit side is 150,000, sum of debit side is 2 lakh 1800. Sum is completed. First step is completed. Now make a comparison of both amount, 1 lakh 50 or 2 lakh. Which sum is the larger sum? 2 lakh. So you are going to write 2 lakh on total of both sides. Here what you will do, you are going to write 2 lakhs amount on both sides. So here you will write 2 lakh 1800, 2 lakh 1800, and you are going to put same amount on opposite side as well. Here you might have an objection that total of this side was 150 and we have put 2 lakh 1800 over here. This is the procedure and you will follow the procedure, and at the end of balancing this ledger you will come to know what we are going to do. Step number 1, total of both sides. Step 2, mark which is the larger portion, larger sum. Here was the larger sum and you have put the larger sum on total of both sides. So next step is to choose the smaller side. Here you have the smaller side, smaller total. You will write over here by balance. And how you will calculate this balance? By subtracting smaller total from the larger total. That means larger total you will write on calculator minus smaller total. Here you will get your amount of balance. When you will write this balance, it would automatically be equalized with 2000, 2,01,800. This was, I was telling you, you will automatically be familiar with the procedure. Now we are going to calculate the balance. How would we calculate? We will subtract smaller total from the larger total. Larger total was 2 lakh and you will subtract smaller total which was 150,000. Here you have calculated your balance. It is called initial balance. Now when you will add all of the amounts present including balance, the total will automatically be 2,18,000. This is the way how we can calculate the balance. In other meaning, you can understand debit side total is showing total cash received. Credit side total is showing total cash paid. The difference is what? Which we haven't paid, which is still in your hand. This is your initial balance. And now next process is very important. You will have to transfer it to the opposite side, but on downward line. You will have to transfer this balance. Exactly same balance would be transferred to the other side, opposite side, but on downward sloping. Here you have got a downward cell. There you are going to write the same balance. So what you have done? You have transferred this balance exactly opposite but on downward cell. That is why, since you are bringing it down, so for reference what you will write? To balance, but beside this to balance you will write BD. BD matlab means brought down. You have brought it downside. That is why this balance is called brought down. The purpose of making ledger was to calculate balance brought down. It means everything about this ledger has been completed. So mark it as it has been done, like for just with the help of a line. This you will put a closing line when any ledger would be completed. So what we will do with these two balances, two sums we have already calculated. What we will do, these totals or sums were calculated just for the reference. We were willing to know which is the larger sum. This was rough work. You are not needed now, and these amounts are unnecessary to be written over here. You may erase them. And what you will do, you will use a rough page or any other page except the neat page over here, and then you may erase or you may not erase, but you will have to choose some place elsewhere. Okay ji, cash ledger has been completed. Now what would be the next ledger? Cash is completed and we are following the sequence. Next ledger would be made for the capital. So come over here. What I will do, I will take headings from the previous ledger and will write same headings over here. This is somehow an easier way for me, but you will have to write everything again and again and again. We are making capital ledger. First step is to change its title and second step is to change its number. Remaining all headings are same. As you can see that date particular amount on debit side, date particular and amount on credit side, everything is similar. So method is also similar. We will be focusing upon capital. If capital is present on debit side of journal, we will choose debit side of ledger. If capital is present on credit side of the journal, we will choose credit side of the ledger. Debit do debit, credit do credit. So here we have the first entry, January 1, capital is present on credit side, 130,000. So you will choose the credit side and will write 30,000, 1,30,000 on credit side, 1,30,000. We have posted capital. What is written on the opposite side? Cash. So this cash will be used as reference with an additional word of buy. See its date. First entry January 1 A. So you will put J1A. This is date we are mentioning over here. So 130,000 first entry is completed. Capital was the ledger. Mark it as it has been done. Now you can see that both amounts on 1st January in this journal entry, both amounts have been posted. It means this entry is 100% completed and we are no longer required to see or to have any attention upon this entry. Both amounts are posted in our ledger. Now this is the way with which you can increase your level of satisfaction of doing question. Second entry, capital. We are making capital ledger. Capital is present on credit side of 40, credit side with 40,000. You will go to the credit side of your ledger as well. We'll write down 40,000 over here. Now it's time to see its reference for 40,000. Capital was credit. What is written on the opposite side? That is furniture. So put furniture over here as a reference. Now see its date, something, no, nothing is. So furniture you have written in particular column as reference for 40,000. What was the date? January 1B. Put the date January 1B is your date. 40,000 entry, amount of entry has been posted to the relevant ledger. Mark it as it has been done. Next entry, January 1C, capital is still present. 20,000 capital is also present in this entry with 2 lakh rupees. So you will go to the end credit side of your ledger, will put 2 lakh over here. I'm doubtful about this 2 lakh. Let's see if we have our entry. Building, yes, building is 2 lakh. I was wondering if cash was 130,000 and if cash was 130,000 and furniture was 40,000, how come 2 lakh? So it was the building. It's all right. We have clarified and we have confirmed amount is 2 lakh. Capital is credited by 2 lakh rupees. We have written. What is written on the opposite side? Building. Building will be used for reference. Just by mistake, cursor was disturbed. It's all right. So you are going to write building over here with an additional word of by. So reference has been completed for 2 lakh. Look at the date of 2 lakh, that is J1C. So we are going to put date over here. So let's write J1C. January 1C is the date for 2 lakh rupees. It means capital 2 lakh was created. We have already posted, entry completed. Mark it as it has been done. Since we are making capital ledger, there were 3 entries for capital, and I'm sure there is no entry where capital is present elsewhere. You can check it out again and again. Capital is not present anywhere else. What does that mean? Our posting for capital ledger is completed. It's time to take the balance. For balance, step number 1 is what? To take the sum of both sides. So we will take sum of all the amounts present on credit side. This is sum of credit side. Nothing is present on debit side. It means sum of debit side is 0. Make comparison of both total 370 and 0. Larger sum you will pick, and you are going to write larger sum on both sides. So here you will write 370,000 and you are going to put same total on opposite side as well, debit side. So here you would also be putting 3,70,000 here. Now you can see what we have done. Repeating, sum of both sides. You have taken sum of debit side, sum of credit side, larger sum by comparison 370,000, and this 370,000 is put on total of both sides. Step completed. Now next step is to choose the smaller side. This is your smaller side, so you will go over here and will write to balance. Since it is an initial balance, how would you calculate? By subtracting small amount from the larger amount. What I am saying, you will write larger amount will minus the smaller sum, with which you will be able to calculate this initial balance. Now see, we have this total and we have this total. What was the larger sum? That is 370,000, and smaller sum was 0. You can see over here. By subtracting, you have got your initial balance. First step of balancing is completed. Now second step is what? You are going to brought it down to the opposite side. When you will brought it down, you will be writing the same amount which is present over here, 370,000. So 370,000 has been put over here with a twisted name. Here you will write by balance, but what you will write, balance is brought down. What you have done, you have picked balance, initial balance was present on debit side, and you have taken to the opposite side on down, and you have brought that balance downwards. That is why we named it as balance brought down. This was the purpose of making our ledger, to calculate balance brought down. Purpose has been sorted out, solved. Now mark it as it has been done just by putting a closing line after the ledger. These balances were written for the reference. Now they are not needed to be written over here. You may erase them. So two ledgers are completed. We have completed our capital ledger. So let's see what is next for us. We have completed cash ledger, we have completed capital. Next ledger we will be making for furniture. So what I will do, I will hire and will take all the headings present in previous ledger and will write same headings downwards, and nothing would be different except for the title, as we are now making our furniture ledger. We had changed the title, and we will change the number as well. Third ledger is furniture, and you can see nothing else has been changed. Date particular amount debit, date particular amount credit. Rule is same. Furniture would be looked out. If it is present on debit side, we will write it on debit side. Here in this entry, January 1B, furniture is present on debit side with 40,000. So you will go to the debit side of furniture ledger and will write 40,000. See its reference of 40,000. What is written on the opposite side? It's 2 capital. So you are going to put 2 capital in particular column as reference. 40,000. For 40,000, what is date? J1B. January 1B is its date. So we had put that date in date column. Posting of 40,000 is completed. We were talking about furniture. 40,000 completed. Mark it as it has been done. Now start looking if furniture is present elsewhere as well. Iron safe, purchase, bank, cash, asif. You are looking for furniture, and you can see that in all of the entries, furniture is not present elsewhere. It means all posting of furniture is completed. It's time to calculate the balance. It has some steps. Step number 1, calculate sum of both sides. Since on debit side there is only one amount, so its sum would be 40,000, and you can see nothing is present on credit side. Sum of credit side is 0. Make comparison of both sides, 40,000 and 0. Pick larger sum. Which one is larger sum? As you can see, it's 40,000. So you are now supposed to write 40,000 on both sides, as you have written 40,000 in total of debit side. In same way, you are going to write 40,000 on credit side as well. Step completed. Next step is to choose smaller side. 40,000 debit, 0 credit. It means smaller side is your credit side. Write down here by balance, but it is initial balance. How would you calculate this balance? By subtracting small amount from the larger amount. That means larger minus smaller amount with which you will calculate the balance. Now see the total. What was the larger sum? It was 40,000. Subtract the smaller total, which was 0. I am repeating these steps again and again and again. Why? Because it's just the love with my students, so that they can learn in a proper and very comprehensive way. Balance you have calculated. It is initial balance 40,000. First purpose of calculation of balance has been achieved. Second purpose, it is to brought it down to the opposite side. We have calculated this balance on credit side. So opposite side is debit side, and there you will write same 40,000 debit side, but with a distinguished name, that is to balance, and you will write this balance as brought down balance. As you have taken this balance from this side to this side, you have changed the side and brought it downward. That is why this balance is called brought down, and this is the main purpose of making ledgers. So balance brought down for furniture is calculated. That means purpose is achieved. Purpose is sorted out. Mark it as it has been done by putting a closing line after it. So these balances were written just for the reference. Now they are unneeded to be written over here. So you may erase these total, not required. Erase them. So third ledger furniture is completed, and we are now going to start our fourth ledger. As you know that we were making ledgers: cash completed, capital completed, furniture completed. Next ledger is for building. Let's make ledger for the building. For that purpose, I will take these headings from the previous ledger, furniture, and we write the same headings downwards as well, except the title. We will now be going to change the title. After furniture we were making buildings account, so put building over here. This is your fourth ledger. Okay, now just focus upon building. We will be looking upon building only. If it is present on debit side of journal, we will put debit in debit side of ledger as well. Debit to debit, credit to credit. Just reminding you, entry January 1C, building is present on debit side with 2 lakh rupees. So you are going to put 2 lakh on debit side. 2 lakh. Now see its reference. For 2 lakh, building is debited for 2 lakh. What is written on the opposite side? Capital. So you are going to write 2 capital in particulars column. C for 2 lakh, what was the date? That is J1C. So January 1C is the date. Put date over here, J1C. Posting for 2 lakh is completed. Come over here, mark it as it has been done. We are making buildings ledger, and 2 lakh is already been posted, mean posting is completed. So we have marked it as it has been done. Now see, building is present if at any other journal entries. So you are looking at all of these journal entries, but we are unable to see building elsewhere. So building was present only in January 1C entry, and nothing is present elsewhere. So it means ledger for building is completed. Now it's time to calculate its balance. First step is to take sum. As there is only amount on debit side, it means sum would be 2 lakh, and nothing is present on credit side, so sum of credit side is 0. First step is completed. Make comparison, which sum is larger, 2 lakh or 0? So larger sum is 2 lakh. We are going to put this 2 lakh on debit side, total of debit side, and we are writing the same total on total of credit side as well. Larger sum is put on debit side and larger sum is put on credit side as well. Step 1 completed. Next step is to see which side was the smaller side. Sum of this side was 0. It means this is smaller side, and there you will write by balance. Which side we have chosen? The smaller side, and in particular column you will write by balance, and this is initial balance. How would you calculate this balance? By subtracting smaller sum from larger sum. So here you have larger sum and you will subtract smaller sum from him. See, what was the total of debit side? 2 lakh. Sum of credit side 0. So larger total was 2 lakh. So you will put 2 lakh first, and then you will subtract the smaller total, which was 0, and here you have calculated the initial balance. First purpose of calculation of balance is completed, and now what you will do, you will brought this balance downward but opposite side. So you have calculated your balance on credit side. What is opposite side? Debit, and you are going to put this balance on debit side. Since you have brought it downside, that is why in reference what you will say, it is a balance but this balance was brought down. Actual purpose of making the ledger was to calculate balance brought down. Purpose has been sorted out. It means building's ledger is completed. Mark it as it has been done by putting a closing line. These totals were written just for the reference. Now they are not needed to be written over here. Just erase them. This way you have completed ledger for your building. Okay, now again there is a short break. We have completed 4 ledgers. Since the length of this question is too much, so we will take breaks and we'll come back and we'll solve the remaining part of the question. Up till now what we have done, we have completed this jungle of journal entries. This was our first step. Then we have started making our ledgers, and there you can see we have completed cash ledger, we have completed capital ledger, furniture ledger, and then we have completed buildings ledger. So next we will be making all the ledger present in journal entries. Right now you can see the green signals, they are marked, but several other entries are still unmarked. So it means there are so many ledgers left. Let's take the break and we will meet soon again for the solution of rest of this question. We are going to make other ledgers which are still pending. Thank you very much for your time. Please take a short break and come back soon. Thank you.